Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called First Time You Realized America Really Messed You Up. Okay, so this looks scary, but let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Literally early this morning, I dragged my ass to the embassy, which is an hour away from where I'm living in the Netherlands. I get into the embassy, I do my thing, I go up to the window, and I'm getting my passport name changed. I need a new passport so that I can leave, go back to the States to see my family, and come back into the country here. And I've been waiting for this meeting for over a month. I give the woman all of my stuff, and she's like, okay, great, where are the stamps? And I had printed out a checklist from the embassy website, and there were no stamps on this checklist. But apparently I needed to bring a couple of stamps so that way I could pay for the postage for the government to send me my passport, which I already have to pay for. Yeah. And I already have to pay taxes in America, but I obviously don't see any of the benefit because I'm not living in the country. Why can't you just pay for my stamps? So now I have to wait 3 more months for another appointment to get my passport.
It sucks, but I think, a lot of places, I think a lot of countries like do this. Obviously, like, they'll charge you, like, they'll keep charging you. And it's like, we're sending you for sending you this, and we're sending you for the passport. Like, not all countries, but a lot of them, yes, it's true. And the tax situation, of course, like, why am I paying taxes if I don't live there? Well, because you're an American citizen, and that's how it goes.
So I'm moving to Portugal and I have somebody that's helping me with the visa process over there, and she's asking me questions about my income, and I say, I have a full-time job and I also run 2 businesses. And she's like, that's a lot. And I said, I do work about, anywhere from 80 to 110 hours a week, but, it's what's necessary right now. I need to take care of my son. I need to manage all these different things, and I need to be able to afford, a pretty good life. And she said, well, don't you make over what the minimum is required here in Portugal? And I said, no, I definitely do, but I need to be able to take care of all those other things. And she's like, how do you have time for your son? I'm like, well, it's not the amount of time that I'd like, but that's what's necessary. And it just was really clear to me, like, with the confusion.
She was like,
that they actually have work-life balance, and you just don't work yourself to death. You can actually enjoy your life.
Hi. The whole thing about, like, having, like, a business or, like, 2 or 3 jobs, or even just one job and a part-time job. Well, maybe, I think, like, that's a very American concept. I don't think a lot of countries, like, do this. Maybe in this day and age, like, people have to get around in some other ways because the economy sucks in a lot of places, but that's really unheard of, I think, and important. That's why people are like, wait, what? Do you mean you have, like, 3 jobs?
So I've been living in Spain for about 11 years, and this happened like 11 years ago.
Okay, a long time.
It was my first time going to the emergency room, and when, stomach problems, whatever, couldn't stop throwing up. And I go in, give the girl at the front desk my ID and my debit card. And she takes my ID, checks me in, hands both cards back to me. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I give the debit card, I pay at the end. So I go in, everything, give me medicine, and I go back out. I stop at the front desk again, and I was like, hi, I'm leaving. Here's my debit card. And she just looks at me.
Go.
I don't know why you keep giving this to me. You don't need to give me your debit card. I don't get it. And I'm like, oh.
It's free.
You don't have to pay for health services.
Yeah.
Even in a private hospital.
Who knew?
Okay, I have another one. When I was studying in Spain, we had our orientation the first week of classes, and our program director sat us all down and had to explain our health insurance to us and how it worked. And basically it worked that you paid like €1,000 for the semester and you got health insurance, like free health insurance for everything, covered everything. And she had to sit us down, and she had this big group of Americans in a room, and she was like, listen, if you are sick,
go
to the doctor. And we were all like, yes. And she was like, no, like, Americans don't go to the doctor. You won't go to the doctor when you're sick. So I have to tell you every year to do this, and still kids will just put off going to the doctor because you're used to just, like, pushing through illness. No matter what it is, I don't care.
And then it's awful. It's
go to the doctor. And she had to actually, like, spell that out for us.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like Americans are so scared about, like, the prices, or even if they'll tell you it's free, like, people are so like, I'm not going, I don't know, you may be lying.
Okay, so I was living in Thailand and I got into a motorcycle accident because the guy in front of me turned without a blinker. Like, he was on a moped and he just kind of turned into the side of me and just knocked us both over. And so my motorcycle landed on my knee and I couldn't walk, so they needed to call me an ambulance to go to the hospital. But like, I was like, I can't afford an ambulance, so the whole time that they're like, bring the ambulance is coming, and they're like putting me in the ambulance, I was like, how much is this gonna cost? How much does this cost? Like, I someone can pick me up, how much does this cost? Because like
get a taxi or I'll walk.
In the States it could be like $4,000 to get a 15-minute ride to the hospital. And the guys just laughed at me and they were like trying to figure out the word for it, and they're like, free.
What? Calm down.
It's free. And I was like, huh, well, that's different.
I'm a black person living in Japan right now. And yeah, so when you're in America and you're shopping, you're browsing, whatever, sometimes, not all the time, in my own experience, I've never had the experience of being followed around because of my skin color, because I just don't shop that often. And sometimes when I want to go get something, I know exactly what I want. I go in, I buy it, and then I leave. But here in Japan, when you go in and you're browsing for something, the employees are walking around to help you. So they may follow you, but they're not following you because of your skin tone. They're following you because they want to help you. They want to take the initiative and be right there when you need them, when you're ready to pay, if you have questions, whatever the case may be.
That's interesting, because I thought that Japan would like leave you alone if you have any questions, just ask me. Which I think like a lot of places in the US have, like a lot of like retail stores, you can tell them like, oh no, I'm shopping on my own. If I have any questions, like I'll let you know, and they'll just like leave you be.
Hey, I live in Ireland and I've lived most of my adult life here. I moved to Ireland in 1995. My teenage daughter was born here many years ago, and when she was born, I spent 2 nights in hospital before she was born. I had an emergency cesarean section, and then I spent a further 6 nights afterwards. The total cost to me was 0. I kept asking them, like, are you sure no one wants my credit card? Like, do you want my details so you can send me the bill? And they would just like laugh, like, oh, you're American. There's no bill. So 8 nights in hospital, emergency procedure, 0 bill.
So when I was in high school, I was a lifeguard, and during my lifeguard training, they taught us that before we even administer first aid or CPR, we had to ask for consent to avoid being sued. Now fast forward a couple of years, and I'm in London as a waitress, and my company sends me to go do CPR training. And while I'm there, they go over the same stuff that I learned in the States, but I notice that they're completely glossing over this one particular area. So I raise my hand and I ask, what are the laws here? Like, how do you avoid being sued if something goes wrong?
There are no laws.
To which every single person in the room starts laughing at me and says, oh, you're American, right? Yeah, no one here is going to sue you for trying to save their life.
Yeah, like, I consent for you to please save my life. Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, I have type 1 diabetes and I lived in Costa Rica. The very first day that I was there, my insulin pump stopped working. This was like some weird fluke, unrelated to anything else. But I didn't have a doctor yet or really know where to go, so I went to a pharmacy because I needed to get long-acting insulin so I could still treat my disease. And when I went to the pharmacy, the insulin was $20 for a vial. In the United States, I pay $322 for that same vial.
That's crazy.
I also want to add that I got the insulin over the counter without a prescription. In the United States, I have to see my endocrinologist 4 times a year to get a prescription for a medication that keeps me alive.
Okay, that to me is crazy. Like, don't you need like insulin? I mean, some like Tylenol, of course, you don't need a prescription. But for insulin, don't you need a prescription? I think that was like mandated by law in all places. Seems dangerous.
Here's a fun one. So I'm teaching 3rd grade in Thailand, right? And it's sports day. Kids running around, screaming, having fun, as kids do. And I hear a bang. Instantly, my heart drops into my stomach. My entire body tenses. My adrenaline starts pumping. And I'm looking around for the shooter. And then I realize I'm in Thailand. And people don't have guns. And they don't shoot children at their school. It was a balloon. A balloon popped. Fuck you, America.
Yeah.
So I don't live abroad anymore, but for half of 2018, I lived in Germany, and I have so many stories. The town that I lived in had like a main plaza area, and there was a cafe in that plaza. So a couple of my other American friends and I decided to try it out one day, and there was a construction site nearby. We heard a really loud bang, and we kind of assumed that someone had fired a gun, and so we like ducked for cover, and then we were looking around frantically, trying to find like a place that we could run to or hide to get out of the situation, and then we realized that no one had shot a gun. No, it was a loud bang from the construction site. That's it. That's all it was. We'd been speaking in English, and we all have really obvious American accents, so all the Germans around us gave us these really sad looks like, these poor Americans.
Yeah. It's so cringy.
I've lived abroad for a little over a year, and coming back for the holidays, I have really come to realize that the food in this country is garbage. Since leaving the US, I have lost about 40 pounds, and I have not tried to lose weight. I haven't been conscious that I'm losing weight. It just has naturally fallen off of me because food in other countries is not overprocessed. It's not packed with sugar and preservatives and all of the things that are in the food here.
And you probably also walk more.
Since being back, even for the short amount of time that I've been here, I have found it extremely difficult to maintain my weight, even though I'm not overeating. I'm eating basically the same diet I was eating abroad. It's simply the way the food is processed. So moral of the story, try eating organic as much as possible. This food is killing you.
My God. Okay, yeah, I think like it's sad. Like it's just kind of like it's funny, but it's like it's funny in a way that I'm in a funny but not in a funny haha way. I think like this is so. I would say like offensive. It's not really offensive. It's just like it's very plainly sad. Like the whole healthcare situation, like everything having to do with healthcare. Like it should be a basic right. Like it's a human right. Like everyone should have easy and free access to healthcare. So, for a lot of like half of these stories were about like, I didn't want to, like, they were like, you need to go to the hospital right now. Like, you need to go to an emergency room. They were like, no, absolutely not. I don't want to pay. I don't know if I have the money to pay for like the ambulance ride or the hospital bill. Like, no, I will, even if I'm like super sick, I will not go. I will just plainly will not go to the doctor because it's going to be like very expensive and I do not have the money. And I think like, and the insulin one, which I'm a little surprised about, but that's another story. But I think they're all like things that should be sort of like provided to you as in like just this is a baseline. This is a baseline of like what it constitutes being like a human being that lives in a society, that lives, in the world. And all of them were like, no, like, wait, like it's crazy that they're not, because I think a lot of Americans do know that, well, I don't know if actually, maybe not actually. I would say like most people, if not almost every single like person in the United States knows that in other places, not all places, but a lot of other countries, like most of them do have free healthcare. So I would assume that once you sort of like go out in the world and you go out to other countries, like you're not you sort of like know it logistically, as in like I know it in my brain and I know the information that it's free, and yeah, sure, it's free, but maybe you're not really like, is it really though? Like if I'm there, am I gonna have like, if I have a car accident or something, I have some sort of like medical emergency, am I gonna have to pay? Like maybe you're thinking like people are like on the internet are lying a little bit, or maybe the moment like you kind of like forget about this. It's like, oh yeah, we're the ones that have to pay for healthcare, but that's not really a thing in a lot of places. Some others yes, but other places do not. So I do wonder, like, which is the case, because again, I'm like, I think a lot of, like, most Americans know that this is not normal. Like, well, it is normal for you, but it's not the norm for a lot of other places in the world. So, it's a little, like, shocking to see them all, like, wait, what, it's free? But I think maybe, again, it's a thing about, like, you kind of, like, you know it, and you know the information, but once you actually are there and have, like, looked through this, is where it actually like comes dawning on you like, oh yeah, sure, it's free. Or maybe again you're thinking like, oh yeah, people are like a little bit like low-key lying, like they're exaggerating, saying, oh yeah, it's free. Like I went to like the woman, like for instance, oh yeah, I had a C-section and it was completely free. It's like, yeah, sure. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, good. But you're thinking probably like, no, absolutely no. Probably they had to pay for something. But it's like, no, and that's why you're like, so, like, I would be very stressed about the situation. I'll be like, hey, do you need my card? I think I still would be like, I'm saying this, but I still think I would be like the same way. I would be like, are you sure it's free? Okay, good. But I think I would just ask like one time. Are you sure it's free? Okay, great, thanks. But I think like it's just like natural if you're like, I don't know if people were lying about this. I don't know. Because once you actually, again, people can tell you things, but once you actually live and experience the situation, is like where you're like, oh, okay, you can tell me, and I can sort of like, no, but from a distance. Once I actually experience this is when I can tell you, oh my God, you were right. Yes, absolutely. The whole insulin one was a particular case to me. Because again, insulin, I think a lot of places, because I'm trying to think like antibiotics, like of course you always need a prescription, but other medications, I think, I'm trying to think of like what kind of things you can get over the counter. And I think actually the US is sort of like lax about those things, I think, but maybe I have to rethink this. I would have said before this, it's like, I think they're pretty lax about this, right? Like you don't need, like there's many things you can just like get over the counter. Although I know that regulations sometimes change, but I think like there's a lot of things. I think other places are a little bit more cautious about it, and you need to have a prescription for like very like things that maybe you would get. Like I could get this in other countries, like just like over the counter. But insulin, I would have never thought that in some other places, like, oh no, it's over the counter. I had no idea. And isn't insulin like refrigerated? I do not know, but I think, like, again, quite surprised by Costa Rica. Like, good for them. But I would think, like, isn't it dangerous to just have it over there? I don't know what you would do with it, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what happens. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe someone's crazy adult. It's like, can they like over medicate with this? I don't know. Do not know. And I think, like, especially with diabetes, I think it's like a very like it's a health condition that's like really, it can be like hard to manage, or it can be like quite dangerous. Obviously they live their lives normally, but I think like it can be a medication that's a little bit like more, you need to be a little bit more careful with the medication, what you're eating and stuff. So I think your doctor needs to monitor like the situation closely. So I would think like that's what it is, right? That's what you have to go to the doctor a few times for them to actually tell you, yes, your dose is okay, or you need to like up your dose or lower your dose or whatever. I don't know, 4 times, that seems excessive, but unless you have like a particular issue. But I'm kind of surprised by that. That was probably the most shocking part about this video for me. It's like, wait, what? And the thing about the store as well, the stores in Japan, I understand that he was a black man, and he was like, which I get, it's, you know, a lot of people, in some places in the US, they're seeing us like, oh, they're automatically, it's a threat, like they're just like normal people, but because they're black and they're men, and they're probably young men, they're sort of like profiled, and they're like, oh, you know, you have to be more cautious about this. So maybe I can understand that, but it's kind of crazy to me that in Japan of all places, like they're not. Then he actually said, I didn't experience. I think he said like I haven't experienced that, you know, in the US. But it's kind of crazy that from all places in the world, like the one that like leaves you alone is Japan. Not because of like anything bad, but I would think like because you're quiet. And I know it's kind of like silly to me to say it's an exotic, like you're going to be exotic for them, which I know it's crazy in this, like we're in the 21st century. But a lot of people I think would maybe be shocked of like, oh yeah, you look very different from us. So maybe people are a little bit more curious about you. So it's kind of crazy that they're not really like, they just like leave you alone. But I think maybe it's because like Japan, probably like I think Asian culture, and probably Asian cultures in general are probably a little bit more like not shy, but yes, shy as well. But I think they're more probably, I don't know, they're trying to be polite, and they're trying to like keep their distance. So maybe that's why they're not like overtly like looking at you like, oh my God, that's so weird. Like, look at him. I know it's gonna be like extremely rude. Maybe I'm exaggerating this actually, but what I mean is like, I don't know, it's kind of like surprising to me, and especially the fact that apparently like the shops like they'll follow you around, because it's like, again, because of the whole like keeping their distance, because I think like that society is very like, again, very closed and very like, hey, we like our personal space, and we don't really like to like do a lot of like social interactions. So it's kind of surprising that, oh, they'll follow you around in stores. That's crazy. I'm wondering if they'll strike up conversation with you, as in people like the cashiers and just people in like that work in retail in the US. They'll like, everyone, like most of the time will strike up a conversation with you and be like super friendly, and they'll let you know, and they'll want to talk to you, and they'll ask you like so many questions. I'm wondering if that's the case in Japan. I would guess no, but again, maybe I have to rethink this. I don't know. I've never been to Japan, so I wouldn't know. But yes, this was a very, and the ones with the guns, it's like, oh my god, those are like so sad. I wouldn't say like, it's true that people were like looking at them like, wow, like this is very sad. And it's like, yeah, they're not even laughing. It's just like a very sad situation that you're so completely like traumatized by this, that's where your mind goes. That's like PTSD. It's like, it's crazy. And the food as well, I get, yes, food is overly processed, and you can tell when you like look at a package of like the same, I don't know, candy or a cookie or something like that's like it's made out of like by the same brand. And if you look at the two packages, like the one that's sold or made in the US, and then you have the one that's sold in other places, you'll see the difference. It's like, oh, the US one usually tends to have like so many other things and just like different things. And sometimes they do taste more, they taste sweeter, like they have more sugar. Like when you try it on, like when you try it, it's like, this tastes different. Like this tastes more, like it tastes sweeter, and sometimes it just tastes like a little bit different, which again is crazy. It's like they'll absolutely do adjust. And you think it's more like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, but it isn't. It's like, no, check out the packages. Like, it's different. Like the ingredients are different, and I have no idea why they do this. Maybe it's because it's been historically cheaper, and maybe that's why they sell those things, because maybe just people got used to it. Like Oreos, like, oh, American Oreos, like people got used to this, and that's why they can't change the recipe. That was an example, but I think like it is a thing. It is real, but I have no idea why that's the case. But it is always, it's sad. It's like, yeah, and if people that do not really, if you've never been outside of the US, you don't know that in other places and in other countries, like the food that you're eating, like it's not what you're eating. Like you're eating something that's like a little worse than what everyone else is getting. And it's sad to say, but that tends to be the case. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!